What's up, everybody? Wake up with me. It's your man Trayvon Pratt with AIM, always improving the mind. And today is a special one because it is Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday. Yes, it is the holiday that we celebrate this great man, Martin Luther King. So I just want to give my applause to the late great. Give him the it is amazing what he was able to do. It is amazing at what he was able to do. And here at AIM, if you followed the platform enough, if you've been around, right? If you've had the pleasure of coming to one of our events where we spoke publicly, right? One of the things that we say here at AIM is you can't have community without communication. You can't have community without communication. What does that mean? What does that look like to you? Initially, what thoughts came into mind? Put it in the chat, put it in the comments. I want to know what's so tough about communication? What are the problem areas in communication? What do you see as the flaw in communication? Right? Put it in the chat. Let me know. Because if you can't have community without communication, I think that's one of our biggest flaws in today's. And that's where I keep on, like, the more I work, the more I drive this mental health into a positive realm, right? The more the more communal driven events that I do, the more that I communicate, the more I see that communication is a real struggle. It's a real struggle. And there's different areas, different avenues, different facets of communication that people struggle in. It don't have to be, a specific one. It don't have to be like um you could be great um at listening, but you're not great at starting a conversation. So you don't have many people to listen to. You could be great at starting a conversation, vice versa, but then you're the one that's doing all the talking and you talking over people and you don't even realize it. You could be great in different areas of communication, but what do you see as the biggest flaw in communication? Go ahead, put it in the chat. Let me know. I'm uh sending out some marketing. So excuse me. Biggest issue. That is crazy. That is crazy. I just saw something. But yes, man, communication, right? Communication is so, so important. And it's something that is so common, so everyday that you do not pay attention to it. You don't hone in on it. You don't realize, like, most mishaps stem from miscommunication. Most mishaps stem from miscommunication. If you ever look at a problem, an altercation, you ever look at something like a fight, a gang fight, right? Gang violence usually stems from miscommunication. Somebody being upset, anybody holding a grudge, family problems, right? Usually stem from miscommunication. Uh, Overbearing parenting and all of that stuff usually stem from miscommunication. No communication is a miscommunication, right? All of these things that cause trauma. They say sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt. That's not true. At least sticks and stones hurt temporarily. Words will cut you deep and scar you for life, right? So is that an issue? The wording? in communication? Let me know. What do you see as the biggest challenge in communication? You know, what's the biggest issue with communication? Most mishaps stem from miscommunication. If you look at any altercation, you go all the way back to the root of it. At at some point, there was a miscommunication. There was a communication error, and somebody perceived something wrong. Somebody delivered something wrong, and they responded to the miscommunication in the way that they saw was logical or appropriate, right? And from there it's just response, 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 and now we butting heads, or now we're fighting, or now we're arguing now, you know. And don't get it confused, arguing is a form of communication. Most people that argue are to a point where you going to hear me because you need to know my side, or the truth, or my truth, you know. um and at that point, you're willing to say, no hold back. You're willing to say what it is that's actually on your mind. So arguing is a form of communication. I don't rally for it, but arguing is a form of communication, right? So, what are some challenges? What are the biggest issues with communication for you guys? I want you to put it in the chat, put it in the comments, and if you want, you can come join me live. Where are we? Technology, man, I'm telling you. But you can always come join me live right here at the bottom. Link is in the description, right? You can come join me live. Now, man, communicating is an art form. And it's one that, like, you learn language, you learn how to speak, but you don't really learn how to communicate. That is that is pivotal, right? That is pivotal. Can you learn how to communicate? This is what I loved about Dr. King is he wore many titles, right? Activist, philanthropist, pastor, you know, but his purpose was to speak. Dr. King was a living embodiment of this phrase. You can't have community without communication. And here this guy is bringing a community together through what? Communication. He was able to communicate and convey a message of unity to bring a world together, right? To portray a message that everyone could resonate with. That I have a dream speech was pretty much freestyle. He had writers, he had other people, like, they spent time conducting this speech that it was supposed to be. When he got up there, throw that out the window, because this is what needs to be said. We need to come together at some point, like, truths, universal truths is universal for a reason. It's not for one group, right? It's not for this class. No, it's universal. We could all feel this, and and we shouldn't be able to withhold anything from anybody of a certain caliber, right? Certain truths need to be spoken, or else we'll drive away from them. King was an embodiment of the phrase, "You can't have community without communication," and I love it. I love it. Knowing how important it is to speak, to teach, to guide, to listen, and to learn from one another, right? I told y'all I had recently been under gunpoint. I was robbed by two young black men, and in that moment, I wasn't frightful of my life. I was upset about theirs. What are you doing? What are you about to do? What are you setting yourself up, the trajectory for your life? Let me talk to you, right? And in that moment, I spoke to them. I feel as though I resonated and made some type of sense to at least one of them, right? Because they started to dwindle away, the energy shifted, and the guns went down. And then it was like, nah, this is the situation, revamp the energy, but the message still resonated. I care about y'all. Can't have community without communication. I care about y'all. Y'all are messing up y'all's future by doing something that is detrimental to your freedom, right? The reason why they're in that predicament, the reason why, listen, in all crime, there is this undertone of I am not understood. I got to be understood. I need to be heard, seen, acknowledged, understood. That's a basic human yearn. You yearn to be understood. When you're misunderstood, you tend to lash out, act out, or cause self harm. It's a reaction. It's a reaction to being misunderstood. That fuck it mentality, that's a reaction to being misunderstood. Trust me, I know. And misunderstanding can lead to that. But communication has the power to bring us together, obviously, like Dr. King did. Communication has the power to bring us together. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's beautiful to see people able to just be, right? People freely and willingly and happily can just say, "Hey, I see you. I see you too, Spider-Man meme." you know, it's amazing to just be at ease as a person around people. You know what does that? Communication. Hmm? You know what brings people together? Communication, connectivity, right? Concentrated on a commonality. Shout out to Keith. Yes, but it's important. Communication, I'm not just telling you to tell people what you think. That's a small facet of communication. It's actually a small area. Uh, Anybody could do that. But to be great at communicating, you have to know where you're going with this communication. What's the purpose behind this communication? And then you have to hold that purpose, that focus. That's the focality. That's the focal point of the conversation, of why you even started the conversation. That's probably why communication uh that's probably why I drive so hard for communication. It's probably why I attempt communication more than the average, right? I had people that say, Lance, is like, you can talk to anybody. I feel like anybody could talk to anybody if you ask me. Um, what's funny is if you show interest in people, they usually show that they're interesting. So, that's one of the myths of communication is people don't have nothing to say. I don't have nothing to say. I hear that from guys all the time is I don't have nothing to talk about. And then I, start the conversation and this conversation lasts for 3 hours. Like, and it seems like you had a lot to talk about. And I only had to cut this off because I gotta go. I gotta do something else. We'll pick this back up. It's like, yo, you actually have a lot to talk about. Everybody does. Everybody has been through something. Everybody has experience. Everybody has knowledge and wisdom in something, right? Everybody has something to teach and everybody has something to learn. Nobody's perfect. That's why we're always improving. Mm? They say find your tribe. How you gonna find a tribe if you don't talk to them? You gonna just look at a post? You know what's funny is social media was created for us to be social, but it's actually one of the main factors in why we are so socially so antisocial, so socially awkward, socially closed off. People don't talk to people no more. It's easy to type up a scribble or letter. It's easy to type up and say something that's on your mind that will come with no retribution. You'll get a letter, a message back, a DM back, a comment back, and it's completely optional whether you read it or not. And when you read a message from somebody else, hello, more miscommunication. You read a message from somebody else, you're assuming the tonality in their delivery, right? You're assuming that this is what they mean or this is how they want to say this to me. If they don't pronunciate correctly, if they don't, if it's all caps, some people type in all caps. Like, why are you yelling at me? Well, that's just how they text. So it's so many different ways that we can miscommunicate, and most mishaps stem from miscommunication. But communication is also what will unify us and bring us together. Every time there's a march, every time there's a protest, every time there's a rally, every time we come together to speak. What did Jesus do? He spoke. He's a speaker. Communication brings us together. It has the power to bring us together. Use that powerful, use that power willingly, right? And if you know that the basic human need is to be understood, if you know that, then go into it with a comprehension of you're trying to understand. Like, I'd be completely lost at some of the conversations, some of the dialogue that people bring to me. But I'll keep a open ear as to try to understand. Like I said, my focus on communication, it goes back to like I want to understand you. I want to see the root. Like, why do you even think this way? If it's not like a universal truth, why do you even think this way? What happened? What was the situation that sparked this type of thinking? Because a lot of times we get set in that type of thinking and then we just try to find stuff to solidify what we think is right versus actually learning truth, right? Like, you got people that's like, man, humans are bad. That's just their nature. It's like, no, it's not. No, it's not. Do you say that about an infant? Do you say that about a toddler? Was a baby born bad? You can't label a baby a bad thing. It is a blank slate, and they come out, they'll laugh or they'll cry. And they cry because they have needs. They're either afraid or they're messy and uncomfortable. but most of the time they giggling, they energetic, they smiling, they curious, they trying stuff. Is that bad? It's not human nature to be bad. All of that fear is driven in us. Comes from experience, man. It comes from experience. And if you allow it to, it can be your focal point. You don't even realize you're living in fear. Hmm? But how will you realize it if somebody don't point it out? If you can't see it in yourself? I spoke about earlier this week, I spoke about how my presence is usually the presence that changes the room. You know, it changes the dynamic because negativity spreads faster, misery loves company. All of these phrases hold power too, you know. So you got a lot of people who just stuck in like the negativity of the day. That you can predict all the things that can go wrong. That's a downward spiral. You can predict all the things that can go wrong, all the things that you don't want in a day, and that will never end. So you could get stuck in that. Somebody stupid, somebody driving this way, somebody gonna approach me, somebody gonna say something dumb. You know, I ain't gonna get off till late. It's gonna be a bad day. I don't even feel like getting out the you ain't get out the bed yet and you having these thoughts. And you on autopilot with this. And when you expect negative, you get negative. And then here go me with my whole bubbly, bright, happy, smiling, handsome self. I come in and it's like, who is this person? Who is this guy? You bring that negativity towards me and I'm gonna flip it or I'm gonna ignore it or, you know, I'm gonna handle it how I need to handle it and keep my happiness. I choose happiness, even in the face of opposition, even in the midst of chaos. And I communicate that. I know it ain't all peaches and cream, but I communicate that because that's what I want. That's my focal point. It ain't all bad. Truth of the matter is, you got breath in your body. You got opportunity to do something wonderful. You have opportunity to do anything that you actually put your mind to. You can quit this job right now and go to another one, or you can set yourself up uh, to sell something that you want, or you could just be purposeful and speak your mind. Got all the platforms, all this social media. Here I am, always improving the mind, right? I want a better and healthy mentality out there. I want to improve the mindset for success and self development. Here we go. Another reason I'm so happy is because I'm walking in purpose and I communicate it. I'm not afraid of that. I'm not afraid of the backlash. I'm not afraid of the naysayers and the negativity out there because I don't condone it. I'm not naive to say it's none. I know it is. It's a fight, but I fight with a smile. You know? So it's all love, man. And love is the foundation of everything. That's another topic though. But you can't have community without communication. And Martin Luther King was a full embodiment of that very phrase. And I can't thank him enough. I appreciate him. You know, some try to throw dirt on his name. You know, segregation might have done us better and all of that. But at the end of the day, the man was powerful and he spoke some true manifested where we are where we are in the trajectory to be today. And that's for all people. We should all be dreaming, right? We should all be able to talk to one another. There should be equality all across the board in health and justice, right? And we should just be able to talk and commune with one another, no matter the race, but especially my black brothers and sisters. We should be able to just talk to one another. And we've gotten to a point where that is a fairy tale land where we can actually just commute. We could actually just converse. And it's like, nah, it's not a fairy. It's a reality. I know this to be a reality. I know this to be a reality. Let me bring this reality into the world, right? Communication. So I love to talk to my people. I love to talk to all people. I love to see somebody who's seemingly a threat, right? You used to look at like tattoos and piercings. Yeah, tattoos, piercings, and smoke cigarettes. You're a bad person. That used to be the threat. Now you're the cool person. You got all of that, man. You cool as ever. So many people want to be like you. You're artsy. We changed that dynamic, changed that narrative, right? What you wear doesn't necessarily make you a bad person. So I know, I know people with, the stereotypical thug clothing, and they're the most gentle, peaceful, loving people, right? You might just be comfortable in that type of clothing. I can approach you, right? Not being naive about anything. And I'm not telling you all to ignore any red flags or anything like that, right? But communication, man, is powerful. And it's a simple thing that we can all do to improve overall, like mental health overall with everything. It could improve life. With proper communication, I'm able to convey a message to someone who may not be willing to listen to anyone else, right? You have the irate manager who you like, man, I can solve this problem. I just need your approval. And they don't listen to nobody. Funny, they listen to me. I communicated. I didn't talk at them. I talked to them. That's a difference, right? When you learn more about communication, you'll realize how powerful it is. You'll realize that this is use your voice, use your words. When I tell you it is magic, not just affirmations and speaking it into existence, not just boosting your own self imagery, your own confidence, but literally changing your environment. A lot of people don't even realize that they're causing the conflict that they don't want in their life. You're trying to avoid the conflict. So what you do? Not talk. That's gonna be a heavy conversation. I'd rather not have it. The longer you prolong that conversation, the heavier it'll get. Maybe you just need to learn a different tactic, a different approach to have this conversation. Maybe you need to set the tone and have this conversation in the right time, right? Maybe you need to set up the environment to have this conversation successfully. A lot of breakups happen from miscommunication because at some point, after the miscommunication continues, somebody feels misunderstood. Why would I stay where I'm not understood, where I don't feel accepted? Most mishaps stem from miscommunication. You can't have community without communication. You can't come together. You don't know what somebody else is thinking. You don't know how somebody else feels, right? We could assume, and sometimes our assumptions are accurate, but you don't know. What you got to do, communicate. You all right? You all right, bro? You know what I mean? I trip myself out sometimes, but you can't have community without communication, man. Uh, put it in the chat, put it in the comments if the areas of communication do you want me to use this week? Like every live this week will be focusing on improving communication. Put it in the chat, put it in the live, put it in the comments. Let me know, right? Uh, and whatever areas that you see seek improvement or you think there needs to be improvement overall. I know the biggest one is listening. As I said, we all yearn to be understood. We want to be heard, seen, and acknowledged, right? So the biggest one that people say is the issue with communication is listening. Nobody knows how to listen. And if you want more people to listen, then you got to be a better listener. That's one of the things. Most of the people that think people don't listen well themselves. In the midst of that conversation, I'd be like, well, you could try, and they'll cut me off and continue ranting about how bad people are. And I'm like, well, here we are. It's usually a simple solution, but we complicate things. But I love community. I love communication because I've actively seen the results from learning more about communicating and actively putting it into effect. I've seen the results. So I'm more willing to communicate. And you can't have community without communication because you can't build with someone that you can't trust, and you can't trust someone that you can't even talk to. So it's time that we start talking, people. It's time that we improve this thing called communication. It's verbal and nonverbal, right? It's internal and external, right? How you talk to yourself is just as important, if not more important, how you talk to others, right? I can go on and on. But that's what I think we're gonna do for the rest of this week. We're gonna tap into communication. Let's go dive into the areas of communication. Let's take this week to improve communication because what? You can't have community without communication. Thank you all for joining us. Celebrate MLK Day, Martin Luther King. Rest easy. We do appreciate the great. We appreciate everybody that is here, that is still rocking with us, that joins the lives, that comments, that all of that. Everybody who participates, everybody that is also working on themselves and improving themselves. I thank you. If this gives you any value, please share it with anyone else that you think might be of value. Uh, and share it to your stories, whatnot, anything. We got to get this positivity out there. There's enough negativity in the world. And taking control of yourself, taking control of your mindset and your mentality is where to start at. Change the way you view things, and the things you view change. So remember this phrase: you can't have community without communication. Thank you all.